Mm.
Hello, aloha, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of A Better World with Adrienne. I'm so excited about this week's pod because not only do I get to channel into this space with you as a place to learn, to grow, to heal, like this is a straight up transmission, an uncensored home for your leadership, for your embodiment, and all in the service of a better world. I get to bring a beautiful, one of a kind, gorgeous soul and embodied leader into the space to channel with me to weave our golden threads together. And so I want to introduce Riona to the community. Welcome.
Hi, babe. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am literally beaming. I'm so excited to be here.
I am also beaming as well. And oh, I already feel nourished by the conversation. And so I know that it's going to nourish and
Same.
ignite everyone. So this specific episode is called Shadow Alchemy and Soul Leadership with Riona. So this is the tone, this is the vibe, this is where we're going. And we just so happen to be recording on the first day of Scorpio season. LOL.
Yes.
So anybody that says divine timing is some elusive creature you can't leverage is wrong, in my opinion. So on this opening day of the season of alchemy, we're going to go into this topic because it's so important. Like the cells in my body cannot not.
Mm-hmm. Same. I've been talking about it up and down, sideways. Like as soon as the fall weather arrived and the equinox came, it was like, okay, it is time for some shadow work. It is time to talk about the inner world. It's time for us to turn the gaze from outward summer bliss into inner alchemy for the fall and the winter. So I'm so here for it.
Yeah. And I just keep hearing fertile darkness.
Yeah. Mm.
So, whew, before we officially dive in, let us call upon the altar. If you are new in this community or whether you've been here since day one, just a reminder that a big reason why we're in the state that we're in as humans is we stopped making offerings.
Mm.
We stopped saying thank you. We stopped setting the stage for spirit. And so with the altar, we set the stage. And I always burn a white unscented candle for Archangel Michael, for the healed guides and ancestors of all to protect the space. Christ consciousness as like real Christ consciousness,
Mhm.
not the distortion.
Mhm.
I have rose quartz, every rose quartz I own today, because one of the most ultimate expressions of truth, which is the bedrock of alchemy, is love.
Mm.
One of the most loving things we can do is tell the truth,
Yeah.
especially to ourselves.
Yes. 100%. I have something for the altar too.
Ooh, yes.
I'm holding, and I do this like in every session or podcast interview. I hold a black tourmaline,
Mm,
which is such a grounding stone for me. And so that's here for us as well as an anchor, as a grounding space. Because, yeah, when we start to talk about the fertile darkness, as you have referred to it, right? It's to have a grounding cord can be so nourishing as well, to have the groundedness and the lightness in the space at the same time.
yeah. And I'm wow, thank you.
Mhm.
And the cord, I keep hearing cord, and I've been seeing the umbilical cords of all of us going back into Gaia.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, we gonna talk about that today.
And the last thing I want to speak about on the altar is I have flowers are very, very powerful entities on earth. And I have orange roses. They're like a sweet, soft orange. It's for the sacral.
Mm.
And so much womb healing is coming up, and our creativity, our ability to create in any environment, right? Like, so just remembering that we're powerful creators, and thank you in advance, spirit. Like, we love you, and
Mm.
none of this is possible without you. So just wow,
Mm.
we honor you. Hmm. Take our 3 deep breaths together. For every single person experiencing this, we now come together. Inhale through the nose. Hold through your third eye, opening to visions, open and seeing truth. Exhale out the mouth. Inhale through your nose. Moving to the crown chakra, hold at the top, feel the black tourmaline ground you at the very same time. A pillar of safety. Exhale out the mouth. One last inhale through the nose. Feel your whole aura expand and decide right here, right now, that something in this transmission can and will change your life because you chose it. Keep holding because you're strong. Exhale out the mouth. Gently blink open your eyes. Arrive in our cozy home.
So good. So good. Mm. Thank you.
Mhm. Shadow Alchemy and Soul Leadership with Riona.
Who, baby? Let's do it.
Oh, fuck. So I would love to just formally introduce you to all the souls in my community. So the people in my community, they're leaders, they're mystics, they're spiritual beings in human bodies, and they're traversing life on earth with a mission.
Mhm.
And they just have a deep desire to share, and they're obsessed with astrology. They're obsessed with as many tools as they can devour
Mhm.
to support the mission. So tell us about yourself. Like, Riona is a new expression or an ancient one,
Mhm.
maybe. So
Mhm.
I would love to just, share a little bit about you.
Yeah, babe. Thank you so much. I resonate so deeply with who your community is. I see myself reflected in that so much as well, as a healer, as a medicine woman, as a spiritual teacher and leader. And yeah, this has been something I've been living and breathing for a long time, for lifetimes for sure. And I just went through another form of a rebirth in this lifetime just a few months ago, where I really claimed my medicine woman name and throne. And I am going by that name now. So Riona is not my birth name. It is a name that was given to me actually by my healed ancestors when I was attuned to the Akashic records earlier this year. And it was such a beautiful experience. And just when my teacher was in the attunement and was blessing the space, and she just said, and if there's a name that is here for you now, allow this name to appear. And I heard Riona. And my whole body just got so hot, but so cold at the same time, and chills, and my hair was standing up, and I started crying, and I was flush. And I was like, there was so much saliva in my mouth. It was like my whole body became activated. And my work is so based within the body, so that when that happened, I just knew something clicked in. And then I took some time to integrate what that meant for me. And Riona comes from my ancestral land of Ireland, which feels so beautiful because I've been doing a lot of deep ancestor work for the last few years, and to connect with them has been such a gift. And this name feels like such a gift. And so whenever I say the name Riona, whenever someone calls me Riona, I just hear their voices echoing in it. And it just calls me forward. It calls me forward in such a deep way. And, me claiming this and choosing this identity as Riona, as a medicine woman, feels like wholeness to me. It feels like a union of everything that I've been in my life so far and everything that I'm going to become. And yeah, that's a little bit about me, and really where the the main juice of my journey has been, as I define who I am and what I'm doing here.
Wow.
Hmm.
And what a gift that I just like the words that really stuck out to me were like juice, body, integrate, ancient, ancestors. And I really want to highlight the integration
Hmm.
because that's something I see in you
Hmm.
that I want to see more in the world. Is
Yeah.
like there's so much, we live in the time of Jeff Bezos and Amazon Prime, and people want to fucking booty call their spiritual shit. And
I love when you call it that, by the way, when you say booty call. I'm like, that's exactly what it is, though. And I just love that.
like it's 2 a.m. and I'm unfulfilled and I don't know what my destiny is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just taking that time to let it land in your human body, um and the courage, the the endurance of courage,
Mhm.
not just courage once.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's how you live from the body. That's why I bet you've never struggled with imposter syndrome, because
Mm. Mhm.
I really don't believe in that. I
Mhm.
believe that people, first of all, most of it's just old school fear that we want to put in a fancy outfit to make it
Mhm.
valid.
Totally.
And then also, what if we could just let ourselves be beginners?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember in the beginning of my journey, I felt imposter syndrome. And I think it's simply because I was at the beginning, right? And everything felt so new. And it was just like, where am I going? Right. And this was years ago at this point. And really, the more that we courageously choose it, though, and show up for it and face that fear and slay those, imposter syndrome dragons, and just continue to honor the call that is calling us forward, then
Mm,
we are going to become the thing that we know is innately us. And yeah, I mean, integration is such an important aspect of being an embodied being, of being someone whose integrity, who is truly walking what they are saying. And this creates a presence within you that people just feel and people can automatically trust. And they just know is like bone deep. It's not bullshit, you know? Yeah.
Bone deep.
Mhm.
Oh, to the marrow.
Mhm.
So do you have a Capricorn placement?
Oh, baby. I have 4 Capricorn placements all in the second house.
Oh, she about to stack like long-term generational wealth, y'all.
I mean, yeah, that's
Okay,
the mission.
a key word of Capricorn. By the way,
Mhm.
Capricorn is one of the major energies for New Earth because
Mm,
it's cardinal Earth. Cardinal is leadership.
mm,
Earth. Capricorn is the long game.
mhm.
It's obstacles, it's success, it's structure to make something that stands the test of time. And I've just been noticing my projectorness. I'm like, like the leaders that I'm seeing in their greatness, like you,
Mm.
have major Capricorn. It's
Yeah.
like your soul chose.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, it did. I mean, this is not me.
You're
You know,
also a manifester, which is rare too.
I am. I'm a manifester and I'm a Sagittarius rising. So it's like
Oh.
everything is just like, let's fucking go energy.
But you have that presence, and this is where I feel the integration piece comes in, because for me, I have my Jupiter conjunct my sun in Leo in the 5th house,
Mm,
plus 3 other planets in the 5th house. I can combust. I got so much fucking fire, and it's like through breath work and just like fully landing in my body, I've been able to go from like a 5D like all these little like of fire to
mhm.
like a fireplace, like a hearth that has a like a home base on earth, like,
Yes.
and the cord.
Yes. And the earth. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's taken some time to finesse the energy that lives within me. And, I have been actually very recently going deeper into my astrology and to allow it to just be a guiding light in my life of like, okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay, know this more about myself. And it just, as a leader as well, and as someone who has their own business in the spiritual world, right? It's given me a lot of direction. It's given me a lot of, so even to hear you talk about it as well is very affirming in my system, that these things can really, really direct us on our path and who we are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're all portals. I say that to my people
Yes.
all the time. It's just like a trigger or activation. Like it's all just a portal. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like I don't know. There's fatalistic astrology where it's like you're fucked basically. And by the way, you're a victim. That's not the vibe.
Totally not.
um
Mm-hmm.
so like I really want to go into the shadow
Mm-hmm.
and soul leadership, because there's a reason. If you're out there listening, like it's been churning in the channel for like months on end
Mm-hmm.
that I want to have Riona in the space and for us to co-create a podcast together. And at the time of this recording, it's, you know, horrendous war
Mm-hmm.
has just broken out in the Middle East. And I just got very, very clear from spirit. It's now. And
Mm-hmm.
then like it just clicked in and here we are. So I did an episode about how to lead amidst tragedy and horrific events, where I just shared, it was all channeled, like 10 bullet points basically.
Mm-hmm.
However, you're a shadow expert. Like you're a shadow alchemy expert. That's what you focus on, is
Mhm.
helping people traverse the shadows. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess for people out there listening and they're like, first of all, I feel it because I'm an empathic soul. Also, like, what the fuck do I do with this? Like
Mhm.
for me and for others. Like what would you say to them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even as you say that, I just felt myself in it, as I was seeing all of the things starting to unfold in Israel and Palestine. I I went to myself first, right? It was just like, oh, okay, like how is this impacting me in this moment? And what is this calling me forward into, right? Because when you're a leader, when you have a platform, especially a spiritual leader, right? In times like these, you got to show up.
Yeah, and I just want to point out something you've said multiple times.
Mhm.
And somebody said to me the other day, they were like, "Oh, you're calling people out." I was like, "I don't call anybody out. I
Mhm.
call them forward
Yeah.
into the shoes of leadership that are sitting in front of them that they say they're committed to."
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I
It's
call by the way, I do it to myself all day, every day.
yes, literally. Yes. Yes. So it's a call forward for sure. It's a call in, right? And so the first net gets to be an acknowledgement that, you know, first, this is absolutely catastrophic what we are witnessing. And as a human being, your nervous system is going to be impacted by that. Doesn't matter if you're a leader, doesn't matter if you're a healer, doesn't matter who you are. If you're a human being, you are going to be impacted by what you are witnessing. And so, first, we have to turn to ourselves and we have to take care of ourselves. This is where our practices that we've been cultivating for years, yoga, meditation, ritual, are here to support us, are here to ground the nervous system. Now, when we feel that sense of groundedness and we feel our bodies come back online and we're not in a fight or flight or numbing place, right? That's when we get to decide, okay, how am I going to step forward in this? Now, this brings you kind of to your second edge because we live, and I've been talking about this, because we live in a culture of cancel culture, of censorship, of if you are creating your business online, what you say and how you say it deeply impacts your life and your livelihood because your business is online.
Mhm.
So there's an acknowledgement here of like, it's okay if you have been in a place of, I don't know what to do, because you're up against all of those different things. And for me, what made the difference was, but who am I calling myself forward to be? As much as I could risk this or that or this, who do I want to be known for at the end of the day? And for me, so much of my spiritual practice, yes, is in these different modalities, but so much of it is also in decolonization work, anti racism work, shadow work, ancestral practice. And what this does is it deeply anchors you in your humanity.
Yes.
And it reminds you that it doesn't matter who I am or what my identities are, how I present in the world. I'm a human being, and there are human beings suffering right now tremendously. And since I have a voice, since I have a platform, since I have all of these practices that have been supporting me for years, how am I going to show up? How am I going to lead? How am I going to ultimately bring more light to the world, but having to acknowledge the shadow aspects that live among us as human beings as well?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And and that cancel culture is so real. I've been shadow banned multiple times.
Mhm. Yeah.
And which, by the way, is a huge reason why I started this
Yes.
podcast.
Yes. The censorship.
It's we can, like you said, Israel and Palestine, you could be shadow banned for
Mhm.
saying those words right now.
Literally. Mhm.
I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And so it's acknowledging that and then just like deciding. And I had the same conversation with myself in 2020. And I
Mhm.
would imagine myself old as fuck, like grandma vibes, but
Mhm.
still rocking it.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
literally, apparently in the rocking chair. But it's like I had this vision of me sitting in a rocking chair at our family's cottage in northern Michigan,
Mhm.
and telling my grandkids and my great grandkids, oh, when 2020 happened, I did this.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there I started my business 2 weeks before COVID.
Mhm.
And I said, what story am I going to tell? What
Mhm.
story am I going to tell? And
Mhm.
so that just reframes everything. And then I also think about, I'm like, okay, women around the world, like I'm having a nervous system response, which is, it's not happening. It's happening.
Mhm.
Also, like, there's true peril. There's women that can't speak, that so how dare I not speak, and
Mhm.
and how, you know honoring the discomfort as like my privilege.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Truly. It is, I mean, it brings kind of back, as you say, privilege. What it brings me to is that is also another seat that we get to pay attention to. What
Mhm,
is my privilege? What are my privileges? What are my points of access
mhm,
because of who I am as a human being, because of my identities, because of the color of my skin, because of my access to education that I've had in my life or wealth, right? All of these things are a part of your spiritual leadership. So, knowing where you have your privileges and your access also calls you forward into a deeper mission. Because
mhm,
if you have more access and you have more privilege, then that's something that you get to utilize for the good. But you also have to acknowledge the harm that also lives in that as well. It's
mhm.
very multidimensional.
Oh yes, it's both. It's like, and this is why I believe that Gemini energy is the most misunderstood energy in the
I'm a
whole,
Gemini moon. Mm-hmm.
because because I mean, there's healed and unhealed expressions of every energy, right? And we all have all of it.
Oh,
So what makes all of this so challenging? It's like going toe to toe with that part of us.
yeah.
It's like, where's the war within me? Like,
Literally.
um, Gemini unhealed is like two-faced, like, oh, I lie, I do XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Gemini exalted is, I can hold both.
Yeah. Yep.
And most people beeline away from that because it's
Mhm.
so uncomfortable and challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 100%. And that's where, because you've talked about 2020, what also was happening in 2020 was the Black Lives Matters movement,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And that's when a lot of people started to call themselves forward in realizing like, wow, I really need to do my anti-racism work because holy shit, there's stuff here that I need to look at. And that era, I feel like in some ways, people thought it was a vacuum, right? It was, oh, this is just this one moment in time. But that actually is connected to what is happening right now in Palestine, but in its own way.
Uh-huh.
Because again, you're seeing an oppressed group of people being oppressed yet again, but on like a catastrophic realm where the entire globe is watching, right?
Mhm.
And so it's it asks of you again, what is my seat of privilege? What are my identities? And how do I have to meet myself in those to understand the shadows of that? And once I understand the shadows, how I then can turn those shadows into light how I can become an ally, how I can become a voice for liberation of all humanity across the globe for Earth. But it does require you to go into those shadows. It does require you to do that. I'm going to speak from my perspective right now. All of my ancestry is from Europe. So I have white skin. I come from a family that has a lot of privilege, a lot of access. I had education growing up. I had a roof over my head. I had parents who deeply, deeply supported me. And I still have access to wealth within my family if I need it, right? So that alone, all of those things alone give me so much access and privilege in the world. So what are the things that I am in constant conversation with? I'm constantly in the conversation with of decolonization. So if you look at what's happening in Palestine right now, is their land has been colonized, has been taken from them 7,500 years ago. And they have been put in a place where they are being told you can only do this, this, and this, and this. They're under extreme amount of oppression. And you see colonization. It's in the US. It's on the land that I live on right now. Literally.
All the stuff with the fires on Maui and it's
Yep.
that is very connected as well. Like it's like exposure of what's always been there.
Yes. So the colonizer mind is going to say, what can I have? What can I take? I want that. Okay, it's mine. When you put on the lens of decolonization, you're returning back to the earth and you're coming to a point of reverence, of realizing nothing is mine. If I'm going to come to the earth and I'm going to come to indigenous practices, if we're talking about spirituality, we come from a seat of reverence and we do not come from, I'm going to appropriate or take, right? So that's one aspect, one lens that I'm constantly in conversation with when it comes to my spiritual leadership in any time, period. The other thing that I'm honestly always in conversation with is my anti-racism work. Like, how can I take off the lens of whiteness and white supremacy that is rampant in our systems, period, because it has been around for generations and generations and generations. How can I take that lens off? And how can I put on my anti-racism lens that I can recognize my privilege and at the same time, I can see anyone in their humanity because they're a human, no matter their color of their skin. Right? So again, if we're talking about that Gemini energy going toe to toe, we're going into those shadows. If we're going to talk about whiteness, white supremacy, and colonization, that is some of the deepest, darkest shit that you are going to see in humanity, period. And when you go into that, though, you gain an awareness. Because once you get past the shame and the guilt and like all of these things that you're going to make you feel bad and make you not want to look at it, you're going to realize at the end of the day, I am a human being. All of these things live within me. And I'm going to choose to connect to my ancestral practices. I'm going to choose to connect to the earth. I'm going to put on these lenses every single day. And I'm going to be rooted in my humanity, period.
Period. Amen. And I love what you took it past humans and back to earth, back to source, which comes back to the altar, which comes back to we're all the dirt. We're all the dirt. And there's so much. There's so many layers. And I also, for me, like I'm almost 100% German. I got Nazis in my bloodline. I got, and then we came to the US and had plantations. And so that's alive in my ancestry. And I come back to the question, okay, I believe that our souls choose on the other side, like all of these circumstances to basically set us up. Like God is like teeing us up for
Mhm.
like this like unique expression that we're meant to expand into. And I'm like, okay. And sometimes I'm sobbing to God when I have this conversation.
Mhm.
I'm like, why did I choose white skin again? Like, can we go back there? Like, why? What's the medicine?
Mhm.
What's the medicine? Because Rumi said the wound is where the light enters.
Mhm.
And so these are all different wounds that, you know, make us all human.
Mhm.
And how am I meant to make that a portal for light, like what you're saying? It's
Mhm.
very similar to Chiron in astrology, like the wounded healer.
Mhm.
I always tell my clients it's your most potent medicine lives in Chiron.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I had a bow to wrap up that little
Yeah.
thought, but that's
No,
what's
I mean,
coming through.
yeah, babe, like what I'm hearing, no, I'm going to pick it up right where you are. So what I'm hearing is like there's an acknowledgement, in who you are and who your ancestors are, right? And I feel like, my greatest ancestral teacher, her name is Camila Teresa Laxzepien. She's a dear friend of mine. She's been my ancestral guide, for the last few years.
Was she in
And
House of V recently?
she was in House of V as
Okay,
a guest facilitator. Yes, I brought her in. Yeah, she's incredible. And what what helped me was, yes, okay, I'm going to acknowledge all of the harm that my ancestors have created, right? And also in my bloodline, I know for a fact that there are well healed ancestors.
yeah.
And that is the work that I've been in for the last few years. If you live in an experience where your ancestors, have caused harm, it can create this point of disconnection of like, well, I don't want to connect to them because they have caused harm. I totally relate and can understand to that. And I want to give you an access point that really supported me is calling upon your well-healed ancestors. For me, I also call upon my queer ancestors. I'm a queer woman. And so I call upon those ancestors because I know that they get me. And
Mhm.
like, I don't know exactly where they are in the bloodline, but because I'm a spiritual being, I can feel them when I pray to them. And they have really, really supported me in really loving all of who I am, all of the aspects of my ancestry that I know. And because of that support and because of that love that I've been sitting in with them for a few years now, that gives me the strength, that gives me the courage to look at the things that are harder to look at, like the harm our ancestors have caused, even the harm that we have caused in this lifetime, probably unconsciously, probably because we didn't know it was there. And it creates such a foundation and such support for doing this type of work, to really looking at your humanity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's almost like you're just your spiritual council, your like board of directors, like the healed. And I always when I do the white candle, it's the healed ancestors that I'm inviting. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
inviting chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then at some point, if you want to work with those unhealed ancestors because you are choosing to work with them to alchemize the shadow, you can do that. but that's going to be a very different kind of dance, a dance you take later on after you've spent some time with your healed ancestors, for sure.
Yeah. So I would love to hear your thoughts on like how, when we talk about alchemy of the shadow, there's our personal shadow, there's the collective shadow. You've mentioned, I really want to talk about the cord into Gaia, but how does it all work with the ancestry? Because something that I talk about a lot with my clients and in this space is like following spirit and my connection to spirit, and like how to trust that shit, like all of it. So is there anything coming through in that regard?
Yeah. Shadow work. Yes. So my recommendation is to start with the personal, start with yourself, right?
Mm.
Start with creating intimacy with your own shadows. And there's going to be shadows that come and knock on your door, and you cannot ignore them. For example, one of my shadows that I will be in a dance with for a while is dis-ease of the physical body. And that shadow that I dance with brings me wisdom all of the time, right? That I'm constantly learning from. And then there's shadows that I have tried to ignore, that you will try to ignore. But the way that I recognize them is like they're these little voices that are in the back of your head that pop up sometimes, but you're like, oh, no, just go away, go back there. Go back there. And it's very subtle when this happens. This is a very subtle energy. But after a while, those shadows that are lurking, that are whispering, that are coming up as sensation in your body, right? They are wanting your presence. So I'll give another example of one of my personal shadows that I've been working with that was lurking for a very long time, that I finally was like, all right, let's come on. All right, I feel you. Let's do it. And it was my queer identity. I have been suppressing my queer identity for all of my life, for 29, 30 years. And it was something that was always talking at me. But because of other collective shadows like homophobia and hatred and disgust and all of these things, I have queer friends. I've had queer friends my entire life, but it was something about me taking on that identity I couldn't do for whatever reason, until I said, okay, I will. And then as soon as I peeked into that shadow, it's like everything came in. It revealed so much of me to me. And it was like, it happened fast. And it was like a vortex, y'all, of me remembering me over and over and over and over and over again. So the shadow of queerness, as I claimed my queer identity more and more, what it highlighted was more things about my sexuality, about sexual traumas that I have, about a lot of the roots of why I have dis-ease in my body in general, of the ways that I armor myself, like all of these different things, right? And the more that I paid attention and I sat with them as teachers and I understood and I listened and I moved with them and I was with the shadow, it revealed more of my light, which is the medicine woman.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever shadows you go into, again, I recommend you go from a personal lens first. Perhaps go into one that is very blatantly right in front of your face that you're like, I cannot ignore this anymore. Go into that to just develop a relationship with shadow. And then it doesn't matter what it is, you will alchemize it into light if you are holding space for it in a way that is sacred, that is intentional. If you have a facilitator, a guide who is also helping you through that journey, is really powerful. And then from that place, you'll begin to notice your personal shadows are connected into the collective. It's automatic because we're all connected to each other. But a doorway in from our personal lens really helps. And then we can kind of start to branch out to collective shadows and kind of do all of the dance all at the same time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I just want to say thank you for going there with you, because I get to know the real you, you know,
Yeah. Mhm.
and what a gift.
Thank you, babe. Yeah. Thank you. I received that.
Yeah.
It's wild. Because in all of this, I was married. I was married in the uncovering of all of this to a man who I still deeply love.
Mm.
And, you know, because of how suppressed such a huge part of me was, I was deeply unhappy in a lot of ways. Like there was a numbness in me that just ached.
Mm.
But it was the moment that I accepted all of me, the version of you who's talking to you right now, Adrienne.
Mhm.
I was able to make decisions to become more of her.
Mhm.
And that's something that can also come up when you're, you know, doing your shadow work, you're in your shadow alchemy, you are in your soul leadership. It's going to call you forward. Coming back to it again, it's going to call you forward to make decisions about your life that sometimes you don't understand. And on a human level and an ego level, you're like, what the fuck? And there's this other deeper calling, this deeper knowing that is within you that is just calling you forward, and you're just moving in that direction. And you end up finding your way. I mean, I'm still finding my way, and I know you're still trying to find your way. We all are. We will be forever.
Oh my
But
God. It's like that continuous return
mhm,
to you and the commitment. Like, my community knows this, but it's powerful to hear other people's stories. It's like, I struggled with substance abuse for 10 plus years. It all started when I was 14.
mhm,
So deep in me.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
had an abusive, like, every kind of abuse under the sun. My first boyfriend for 5 years. It was like literally beat into my nervous system.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so the I just am so grateful that you share your story, and because we never, like, no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through, you know, it's not over. Like the real you is there, and
Mhm,
the path to her, him, them is through the shadow, and it's a gentleness in the shadow,
mhm,
and an unfolding.
mhm. Yeah.
And when we stay in that, gentle shadow path with us, then, when we see it in the world, it's but and acknowledging the difference between behavior and someone's soul,
Mm,
that's when we can connect from that place.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shadow work is, yeah, it's returning you. We've been talking about this. It's returning you back into your humanity, in your human. And I've been talking about this a lot too within my community of just the love and light culture that has plagued our modern society, right? Is gone at this point because of just what is happening in our world. And like, even though I can still feel energetically remnants of it still trying to be here, but I'm going to continue to be a strong voice of it is complete. And
Yeah.
Within that, it's the medicine that I'm offering in exchange and instead of, which is restoring spirituality, is shadow work. Because in spirituality, we are, yes, spiritual beings that are connected to the etheric realms. Like I also read Akashic record readings. Like I'm deeply connected into the etheric realm. And I feel like it is so important for us to be connected into that grounding cord we've been talking about the whole time, which is the earth,
Uh,
which is humanity, which means there is duality, which means there is shadow, which means there's pain, there is grief, there's right. And the more that we recognize this and we walk into it intentionally, you're going to become a more integrous leader. You're going to be
yeah.
a more integrous healer because you're grounded in earth. And from that grounded place, your channel can open from a more integrous space
Mm.
because you're rooted. And that's the magical thing about being a human being. If you wanted to be in light orb, then you'd be a light orb, but you're a human being.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of my clients and community, they'll
Mm-hmm.
just blast out of their body because they're like, fuck this. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
this. This is disturbing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be here. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times they don't even realize they left their body. And then you throw on like human trauma to that where we're already dissociating. And then it's like a whole thing.
Oh, yes, babes. Yes. 100%. I mean, I work with my own Akashic record reader, and we've done a lot of deep diving about the dis-ease that lives in my physical body. And what was revealed is my spirit, my soul, for a very, very, very long time was rejecting being in my body.
Mm.
And so it brought upon a teacher, dis-ease, that brought me immediately into my body. Like when you live with physical dis-ease, I live with multiple sclerosis, you can't ignore it. You
Right.
cannot ignore it. And so it brought me deeper into my body. So I get that. I get that wanting to leave the body and just be a light orb. And, but it's like, no, it's gifted me this perspective of I'm a human being, which is so much magic because that means I have connection to the earth and I have connection to the ethers and I'm the bridge between.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. And then ever since I got to Maui, I just imagined myself as Rainbow Road, like in Mario Kart. I'm like,
Yes.
what's the fucking Rainbow Road between Earth and Star? Like my shaman name's White Earth Star. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the
Mm-hmm.
white represents the angelic,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Earth angel, but like Earth and Star is
Mm-hmm.
like Rainbow Road.
Yes, babe. I love that visualization for you. Yes, yes, exactly.
Oh, wow. We could go on and on, I feel. I really I'm really grateful for the potency and just the rawness and realness and for everybody listening, I invite you, like we were talking about integration, right?
Mhm.
Something I come back to again and again is like be aware of how you consume free content
Mm. Yeah.
because it's like if we integrated and implemented just 20%,
Mhm.
we'd be halfway to a new earth.
100%.
So
Yes.
I know for me, when we get off this, I'm going to journal because there's golden nuggets that you dropped that like only you can drop in that way. And I know there's things that hit for people out there. So if you're listening, take a moment and really sit with just one sentence or a handful of questions or just an idea that Riona brought to this space that moved through this channel today. And what if it changed your whole life?
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
You have that power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for that invitation, babe. I love that. I mean, truly, like, and that's when we're so connected into our soul and our soul aligned path, right? We're constantly in a state of listening, of realizing like there's just messages and nuggets that are always coming our way, that our guides, that our healed ancestors are always sending to us, right? And just the divine timing that we were talking about earlier. So, yeah, I mean, it was such an honor, such a pleasure to share and be here with you and just express what I have to express right now, here now, in this moment. Yeah, it was just so beautiful. Are there any last things that like you're wanting to like anchor or ground in, or do we feel complete?
I really just feel a call, just a call. I imagine, each of us has a job, each of us has a mission, and we're not meant to build a new earth with the whole earth on our back, by the way. Like, we're going to do it together. And just do not allow anything to sever you from spirit, from your truth, from your true self. Like, no amount of notifications, no amount of media, no amount of words from the masses, no amount of mental chatter. Like, prioritize time alone with you. Prioritize time to metabolize, prioritize things that make you feel the feeling that you're feeling while you're listening to this episode. Like, you don't need a name for it. Just make sure it's important and stay connected to it.
100%. And the I feel like what brings me to that space every single day is I have an altar that I sit with every single day at some point. Most of the time it's early morning, but it just grants me the space, period. It just grants me the space. And for a long time in the beginning, I was looking, okay, I'm here, I'm learning, I'm remembering, I'm turning on all the lights, I'm opening up all the doors, and right. And now I'm just in a season of, I'm just here, I'm just present. Because after that season of, listening and remembering and, okay, like tell me all the things, I had to step into major action, which completely transformed my life. I mean, my life now looks completely different than what it did a year ago. And now I'm in a space of like, okay, I'm just going to listen and I'm going to notice, right? So everything is happening in like a microcosm way. And it's also in this macrocosm way within timelines and how you work with them. But I love that. I love that invitation, because I feel like that's one of the deepest grounding chords for me, is that quietness by myself, at least once a day at my altar, to just be there.
Just be there and see what happens.
Literally.
Well, thank you so much. How can people connect with you? Like, where do you hang out? Like, how do people work with you?
Yes. So I hang out on Instagram, IG. I've created a more healthy relationship with it over the last few years. Like, it feels like to me, my art studio and gallery. Like, at the end of the day, I'm an artist. I've always been an artist. And so that's where all my creations live. That's where, I speak and I share and all the things. So when you go there, you're going to learn about my world and what's happening there and my offers and things like that, but the two things that I'm really focusing on right now is, the earth of shadow work and being in that space, and then the sky of Akashic record readings. And so that's where I'm playing nowadays. And it just feels so beautiful and so good. And yeah, so I'm at Riona Rising is my Instagram handle, and you'll learn about all the things there.
Yay. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, go connect with her.
Mhm.
Go play with her at Riona Rising. And yeah, just thank you for a great conversation. To everybody out there, go out there, be an amazing you. Don't forget that your ideas are unique, rare, important, and they're a required part of a new earth. Go make a stranger smile because a
Mhm.
smile can change the world. It charges the whole field.
Mhm. Mhm.
Kinder to yourself than you feel like you need to be kinder to others.
Yeah. Yeah. And just be where you are right now, my love.
Yeah.
Listen for where you're stepping next, honestly.
Yeah. Listen, listen. Love you so much. And I will see you next time on A Better World with Adrian.